In 1995, when the commander of the 2nd Ranger Battalion ordered a reinvigoration of combatives training, we quickly realized that the traditional combatives training methodologies didn't fit the realities of our modern training environment or the modern battlefield. Over the course of the last 10 years, we have developed the Modern Army Combatives program, which begins with the ground grappling of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, progresses through the throws and takedowns from wrestling and judo, through the stand-up fighting skills of boxing and Muay Thai, the weapons fighting skills of Kali and the Western martial arts. And if you combine all that with scenario-based training and what we know about training large groups of people to do things based upon our experiences in the Army, soon you have a program that can actually train soldiers to do the things that we've always wanted them to be able to do, but never really had a good program to get them there. The training will begin with ground grappling for the simple reason that it is easier both to teach and to learn. If you go to a traditional martial arts or striking gym, there's no expectation that in the short term you'll have any real gain in fighting ability. When training our soldiers, we must do better than that. We must not only make them a better fighter than they are quickly, but the training must lay the foundations for all follow-on training, growing into the striking skills, takedowns, weapons fighting that they're going to actually be asked to do on the battlefield. The central theme of all the techniques in the Modern Army Combatives program is the idea that you can practice them against a fully resistant opponent. This idea allows us to use competitions as a tool to spur on training. Soldiers can compete to be the champion of their unit at all levels. They can also be asked to compete at any time. Finish a 6-mile road march, you and you, fight. That's simple. So that soldiers know that combatives is going to be a part of their normal day or their normal week. In this way, every soldier will know it's important for them to train, to be ready to fight when called upon. There are two things that we want everyone to memorize before they leave the United States Army Combative School. The first one is this: the winner of the hand-to-hand fighting combat will be the one whose buddy shows up first with a gun. Now that's an important thing to remember because it puts combatives training in context. We are not going to win the next war because we are better hand-to-hand fighters. We are, however, going to win the next war because of what it takes to be a better hand-to-hand fighter, and that's where the second thing we want you to memorize comes in. The defining characteristic of a warrior is the willingness to close with the enemy. No matter what skill sets they may have, if they're not willing to go through the door with you when it's time, they're not really a warrior. And that's what hand-to-hand training is all about. Ground grappling is a game of position. So just like when you're a kid on the playground, Sergeant Bach is in a better position than Sergeant Hill is. He's in a better position because he can strike Sergeant Hill, and Sergeant Hill cannot strike him back. So this position is called the mounted position. It is the second best position. The only position that's better than this is this position here. Now, if you've played a combative game like wrestling or judo that has a penalty for having your back on the ground, realize there's no penalty for having your back on the ground in combat. The penalty is for having your back to your enemy. So, for example, Sergeant Hill's back is to Sergeant Bach in this position. And this is the best position, Sergeant Bach's position, the best position you could be in. This is called the rear mounted position. Let's go back to the mount for a second. Now notice the difference between this position here, the mounted position, and this position here. Now Sergeant Bach is inside of Sergeant Hill's guard. Now you never want to be on the bottom, but you never know when you're going to be, and so you have to know how to fight from there. Although Sergeant Bach is in a better position than Sergeant Hill, still Sergeant Hill has a good position to begin to defend himself. So this is the guard position. Now the last position is the side control position, which is this position here. Now it's not strictly speaking dominant. Sergeant Bach is in a better position, but it's more like 60-40 because to hurt Sergeant Hill, he would have to raise up a little bit and therefore give Sergeant Hill what he needs to defend himself. Nonetheless, it comes up all the time, so you need to know where it fits in relation to the other positions. The first thing we want to do is learn to stand up as we would in the presence of an opponent. So notice how Sergeant Hill is sitting here. He's posted on one leg, he's got the other leg flat, and he's posted on his backhand. He also has this arm up to guard himself. But what he wants to do now is post on his arm and his forward leg and lift his butt up off the ground so he can swing it back and forth. After he's done that, he's going to take his knee here and he's going to bring it through his armpit to post it behind his hand like this. And then he's going to stand up into a fighting position. So let's see it one more time, Sergeant Hill. So standing in base, go ahead. If you find yourself mounted by your opponent, at some point he will try to grasp you by the neck. When he does so, you want to secure a grip on his arm with a thumbless grip. Notice you're going to pinch his arm to your chest. With your other hand, you're going to grasp his arm at the elbow with your thumb on the outside. This grip allows you to keep your elbows tucked in. Once you've got that grip, the next thing you're going to do is take your leg on the same side as the arm you have captured and place it outside of his leg. You then want to take your other leg and line it up with your enemy's spine. So once you've got that there, you're going to pick him up with your hips as if to throw him straight over the top. And once you've got him up in the air, you're going to roll over to come up inside of his guard. If you find yourself inside your enemy's guard, in other words, he has his legs wrapped around your waist and you're inside of him, the first thing you want to do is assume good posture. What good posture means is your knees are going to be spread out so that your body's like a pyramid and you're sitting on your feet. At the same time, you're holding him down with your palms and your fingers are pointing outward. And your head is up and you're upright. After this, you want to defend chokes and punches. So your hands are going to rotate in and you're going to drive your hands up to your enemy's chin. Your head will come down to his sternum. At this point, your hands will come out to capture his biceps with a thumbless grip. And once you've done that, you can sit up a little bit. Now you're going to try to make some space with your hips. So you're going to post one of your legs up. It doesn't really matter which one, but what that does is turn your hip. So now you're going to turn your head away from that leg and take the same side hand and with a knife edge put it through that hole till it's on the ground. At this point, your hand on the ground, you're going to put your knee back on the ground and scoot away from that at a 45-degree angle so that arm becomes a ramp. And this makes, the more he squeezes his legs, the more likely this leg is to end up on your shoulder, which is where you want it. Now you're going to take that hand and you're going to capture his leg with it and pull him up so that he's on your lap here. Okay? Once you've done that, you're going to step up with the same side leg as the arm you've got through and reach across so that you grab with your thumb on the inside of his collar here. So this is arm across. Now what you're going to do is drive that knee forward so that your spine comes around perpendicular to his spine. And after you've done that, pull your arm out and grasp a hold of his belt right in the middle of his back. You're going to stack him up, meaning you're going to get his butt up above his head so he's in this uncomfortable position here. And after you've done that, you're going to allow him to get that leg past you, pressure with your chest to come down to a good side control position.